Hello, welcome to week one of Tefila Prayers Life Practice. My name is Broder, and I will be your facilitator for the next 2 weeks. I am really grateful for your presence over the next 2 weeks, and I look forward to learning with you all of these sources and really conducting much of this module alongside with you. This will be, I think, a really exciting and refreshing experience, and I look forward to all of your feedback. So let's get started. This week we'll be talking again about the challenges and the paradigms in our current sort of tefillah situation. Tefillah, as we know it now, can be challenging, and I imagine that all players in the school might express the challenges in different languages as such. But really the goal of this week is to kind of universalize a language, create a language that we can share, create a language that is based on religious teachings and current research. So when we talk about the challenges and the paradigms, we won't just be fetching about what we see in the classroom, and we won't just be reflecting what the students say, but we'll be translating some of that and also incorporating some of that into a constructive, hopefully a constructive criticism. So let's take a look here at the first slide. The first slide here is expressing the fact that there are precedents for some of these challenges that we'll explore, and the goal of this slideshow really is to explore those precedents. Where in Jewish or rabbinic thinking have we encountered some of these challenges before? Again, challenges that we might simply say, oh, davening is too long, or oh, I can't stand tefillah, it's too loud, or too many people are talking. Let's try to think through what the ideals of tefillah might be and what the pitfalls might be in some of the time-tested language of the ancient rabbis here. So some precedents for these challenges. Number one, tefillah requires preparation. Number two, there's something to be said about avoiding the repetition or the fixedness of prayer. There's something to be said about a willful prayer, or praying from a place of will. There's something to be said about prayer's context. From where are we praying? What surrounds us? What is our setting? What is our mindset? And then finally, the proposal perhaps that it is better to pray just a little if one were to pray that little with kavanah. In Hebrew, me'at b'kavanah. Let's take a look at these sources in their original settings. So Mishnah in Brachot very famously says, "Ein omdin litpalel el mitoch koved rosh, chasidim harishonim hayu shoim sha'achat mitpalelim kedei sheichavnu libam lamakom." Goes on. So what does this mean? This means really it's the second sentence in the English translation that the chasidim harishonim, the pious men of old, used to wait an hour before praying in order that they might concentrate their thoughts. Hayushoim sha'a achat. They would wait 1 moment, 1 hour. They would pause before prayer and prepare themselves. What they would do, what they would say, we can only wonder, but the Gemara goes on to say that they would wait an hour before, they would wait an hour after, and prayer itself would take a sha'a. So if you add it up, 3 hours per prayer, 3 times a day. The Gemara says, well, that's quite a long time. That's 9 hours a day. That's that's a day's work. So the Gemara concludes, right? Halavai sheid palal kol hayom. That if only it were the case that one were praying all day. So it seems that prayer as a practice, then, right, is something worth considering. But it's only a practice in as much as it has a certain kind of preparation beforehand. Number two, one should avoid fixed prayer. This is based on the Mishnah that says, Rabbi Lezer Omer Haoset Tfilato Keva Ein Tfilato Tachanim. And so the Gemara says, well, what is keva? What does it mean to make one's tefillah keva? What does it mean to make one's tefillah fixed? And there are a few suggestions here, right? Anyone whose tefillah seems like a burden, dome alav k'masoy, right? Rabbanan say, kol mi she'einu amra b'lashon tachnunim. Somebody who doesn't say it in the language of perhaps mercy or compassion. Number three, right? Rabbi Rav Yosef Damri Tarvayu Kol She'enu Yachol L'Chadish Badavar. Fascinating suggestion, right? somebody who is not able to see something new in it, to find something new in his or her prayer. And then finally, the last suggestion here seems to do with a connection to nature. Kol she'en mitpalel im dimdumei chama, doesn't pray with the sunrise, the glimmerings of the sun. This might have to do with the zman, the proper time to pray. It may also have to do with being somehow distanced from the world around oneself. Willful prayer. Very famous Gemara in Brachot, a little bit of a radical Gemara here, that a person should evaluate him or herself. Can he or she concentrate? If so, then pray. But if not, don't pray. And so it's an either or kind of proposition here, right? Prayer should be willful in the very least. And certainly we hear this complaint from students. I don't want to do it. Why do I have to do it? So I wonder what this would look like in a school setting. How might we generate a willful prayer? How might we motivate or inspire regular prayer that is also willful? Number 3, prayer's context. So not just where is one in one's mind, but also where is one in one's setting. And this Gemara seems to really hit on both points. Tanu Rabbanan eino omdin litpalel lo mitoch atzvut, lo mitoch atzlut, lo mitoch sichok, lo mitoch sichav, lo mitoch kal rosh, lo mitoch dvarim telim, ela mitoch simcha shel mitzvah. So our rabbis taught one should not stand up to say tefillah while immersed in sorrow, while sad, atzvut, or idleness, laziness, or laughter, or chatter, right? It goes on and says only mitoch simcha shel mitzvah. Somehow your prayer has to be juxtaposed, has to be introduced by the joy of a mitzvah, right? The performance of some act, but really the joy of that act. And I read this to suggest that in some sense prayer has to be purpose-driven. It has to be pointed in a certain direction based on one's own mindset, but also one's own context. And then finally here, a prescription for successful prayer has to do with perhaps cutting a little bit of the liturgy, and in doing so, really optimizing what's left. So echad amar be'ed echad amabit, the Torah says here one of the first codes of Jewish law, echad amar be'ed echad amabit, uvilvad sheichavin libo b'tachnunav, ki tov me'at b'kavana, meharbot bahem shelo b'kavana. So better a little, this is the key, tov me'at b'kavana, better a little with kavana. It's better to pray a little with direction, with purpose, with intention, than much without anything at all. Okay, so just to review again our rabbinic precedents for some of these challenges in prayer. Number 1, you've got to prepare before prayer. Number 2, it's important to avoid fixed prayer. Number 3, prayer should be willful. Number 4, context really matters both within and without. And then finally, number 5, it's better to pray a little but with kavanah, me'at b'kavanah. Okay, so now that we have a language to talk about some of the challenges for prayer based on some rabbinic precedents, I challenge you now to go and do a little bit of research, a little bit of reading. And these are really just selections with the exception of 1 or 2 readings, really just selections of articles. Last year's Hayidion was explicitly interested in Jewish day school prayer in Jewish day schools. And so take a look at the 2 articles that I included for this week from the Hayidion. Both are selected and really excerpted. They're quite short. One deals with a kind of more theoretical framework of keva and kavanah, fixed prayer and intention, and one deals with a more kind of statistical report about the effects of prayer in Jewish day schools and the challenges related to that. The second one is more of a kind of a personal reflection on the challenges related to paradigms. This is from Godfile by Aryeh Ben David, and that is what are the challenges of communal prayer? What are the challenges of independent prayer? What are the challenges of liturgy per se? How does one think about these paradigms in a productive way? Number 3, a research article here, really fascinating article. I recommend actually that you read it in full. What it suggests ultimately is that we need to take developmental psychology into account when we teach prayer. That when a child prays when he or she is in 2nd grade, that language of prayer may be the same when he or she is in 7th grade, 9th grade, college, but in fact the language around prayer, or the way in which we think about prayer, should be matured and developed along the way. And then finally, an optional reading here if you are inclined towards the Rav's Lonely Man of Faith, he has a chapter on prayer, and he talks about the tension between the community and the individual here. Really great philosophical way to think through current paradigms and challenges related to prayer. So that's our research piece. I would then ask that you, for homework really, conduct a very brief, a very kind of cursory research project in your current educational institution or in your synagogue or amongst your peers. If possible, survey a class of students, send out a Google survey, ask them, to fill out something on paper, but really something that would be very easy to report and to analyze in terms of polling. So on a scale of 0 to 5, how satisfied are you? What do you think could be better? Interview a handful of students, observe a current tefillah, talk to other teachers, create a case study of a single day of tefillah, be an ethnographer and be a fly in the wall in the tefillah and try to identify challenges. The goal here for the application is to take what we've done so far in the learning and the research and to see how it expresses itself in a kind of unique particular situation. So before we kind of reflect broadly, can you kind of harness some of your learning here in the real world? And maybe you'll discover something that we haven't really discussed. Finally, let's take a look at this last slide here, and that is that I'd like you, if possible, to reflect as a group, and that is to identify and discuss together the challenges to the current paradigms of tefillah education in schools and synagogues. Even at homes, if you like. You can respond from personal experiences, as an educator, as a student, as somewhere in between. I think what's important here also is that you reference the language of our study, of our readings, of our research. And you're totally more than welcome. You're really encouraged to reference your own experiences. But I do think it's important that we kind of have a translatable language, a mature language to talk about the challenges of tefillah, so that moving forward, when we think about the ideals of tefillah, the best possible worlds for tefillah next week, we might be able to use the same kind of theoretical paradigms or theoretical underlying frameworks. Like I said at the very beginning, I'm really, really excited about this opportunity to study with you, to learn with you over the next week. I will act as your facilitator, but I'm sure that you bring a tremendous amount of knowledge, a tremendous amount of wisdom and insight to this conversation. And so I really look forward to learning with you and from you over the next 2 weeks. Please be in touch if you have any questions. Thank you so much.